Welcome to another episode of the Learneezee cast. Today is a special show, and it's my pleasure to welcome three members of the Global Shapers organization. All three are members of the Hub in Freiburg, Germany. So first I have Minsara Jayasinghe, Timi Olanipekun, and I have Vinay Hegde. How is everybody doing today?
Great, happy to be here.
Great. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Great. So let me go ahead and read your bio so people know who you guys are, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the interview questions. So Minsara is a renewable energy engineer who specializes in solar PV plant performance. He is also the current and outgoing curator of the Global Shapers Freiburg Hub. And Timi is a master thesis student researcher with LKAB, Sweden, the world's largest underground iron ore producer, transitioning into zero carbon mining. His current work entails understanding the formation and distribution of rare earth metals and mineral components that exist within the iron ore. He is also the incoming vice curator of Global Shapers Freiburg Hub. And last but certainly not least is Vinay, who is a doctoral student at Fraunhofer Institute of Solar Energy Systems, Freiburg, Germany. He is currently conducting research on water reuse and mineral recovery with renewable energies, and he is the incoming curator of the Global Shapers Freiburg Hub. Thank you so much for being here, and we're just going to go ahead and jump right into our questions. As this is a podcast that caters to expats, many people who are living in a second or even third country, we'd like people to know more about our guests, sort of on a personal level. And so the first question I have for all of you is, what languages do you speak? And where are you from? So Minsara, do you want to go ahead and start?
Yes, of course. I am originally, I come from Sri Lanka, and I came to Germany in 2019. So I've been it's been 3 years now here in Germany. My mother tongue, so to say, is Sinhala. However, I speak English, and as well as within these 3 years, learned a little bit of German as well.
Thank you so much, Minsara. And now we'll move on to Timi.
I am from Nigeria. Nigeria is in West Africa. Nigeria has about 400 languages. Unfortunately, I can only speak one out of these so many dialects. And my mother tongue is Yoruba. So it's spoken by over 55 million people in countries across West Africa and also South America. Particularly in some indigenous languages in Brazil, you have the Yoruba language, the dilated form of Yoruba language there. But besides English, Nigeria speaks, besides Yoruba, Nigeria speaks English as the official language, so I speak English fluently. And I speak a little bit of German because I've been living in Germany for a couple of times now, going to close to 2 years. Then I understand basic Swedish because I lived in Sweden also for 9 months.
Thank you so much, Timi. And last, we have Vinay. So Vinay, where are you from and what languages do you speak?
I'm from India, from south part of India. So my state is called as Karnataka, where my mother tongue is called as Kannada. Around 50 million native speakers, and one of the oldest languages in India. Around 2000, it has around a history of 2000 years. And besides my mother tongue, I also speak English, German, and German is not fluent, but still in the learning process. And another South Indian language called as Telugu and Hindi. So, and now I am also learning Hungarian because my wife is from Hungary.
That's great. I think that's one of the expat experiences is, of course, being exposed to a different language. Let's go ahead and now move into learning more about your organization. So, Minsara, for our audience who isn't familiar with Global Shapers, can you tell us more about the mission and focus?
I will start with the origins as to how the Global Shapers community was born. So then people who are listening have a bit of context to what it is exactly. So it was founded in 2011 by Professor Klaus Schwab, and the Global Shapers community was born out of the World Economic Forum. So now it's been over a decade old. The main aim of the Global Shapers community is to provide a platform where young people who are under 30, so to say, have a platform to address local, regional, and even global challenges. So coming to goals and missions of the Global Shapers community, We believe that young people working together, collaborating, can create change in our communities and in the world. This can be, by working with local stakeholders or, creating awareness, doing projects, or even being a voice of reason. So, in addition to acting locally, we have a global network, so to say, and we are connected online platform Toplink as well. And we have around 500 hubs located around the globe in more than 150 countries. So we are all linked together. We also communicate with each other. We have yearly events, so to say, throughout the year where we meet up and share knowledge and talk about what the projects that they're doing. So coming to our projects, what we focus on is we focus on the pressing issues in the community. And however, mainly the issues or the areas that we are focusing on creating an impact is born out of the Sustainable Development Goals. So SDGs for short.
And we'll get more into that in the conversation, Minsara. But in regards to the Freiburg Hub, how long has a Freiburg Hub existed?
Um, Actually, we are a relatively new hub. We started things off in 2020 in the midst of the Corona pandemic. We are kind of a Corona hub in the Global Shapers community. The initiation was taken by Kumar Abhishek, and along with Vinay, I, and a few others, we started things off back then. So it's been almost 3 years now. Initially, we started off with two projects, urban gardening and peer mentoring. We can come to those later. Then throughout the years, we made connections and we collaborated with organizations in the city of Freiburg with interesting people on bringing some impactful change, positive change to the community, so to say.
And so, just again for our audience, you mentioned that there's so many hubs all across the globe, but what types of people? You mentioned young people under 30 typically, but is there a specific persona, if you will, a type of person or professional who might be drawn to the Global Shapers organization?
You could say the organization or the nonprofit organization is open to everyone who's below the age of 30. This is just an age limit that's set by internally, so to say, so that the people who are taking part in the community, we try to make the future of ourselves better, so to say. The members of the community come from different backgrounds, and we have a diverse set of members throughout the world. They come from different nationalities, educational background, and professional backgrounds as well. I mean, for example, like the three of us who are here today, I mean, we come from different backgrounds, different nationalities, speaking different languages. And the Freiburg Hub, we have a little over 10 members, and we come from 7 different countries, because we also have two shapers with German origins as well. So we are a very diverse hub. So what matters is if you have the drive and the desire to make a positive impact in the community, the Global Shapers community is welcomes you with open hands.
Thank you for sharing that, Minsara. So it really does sound like if, regardless of your background, if you have an interest, you can get involved. And even if our listeners who are not in Freiburg want to get involved, there may be a hub near to where they are. Let's go ahead and transition now to the Sustainable Development Goals. You mentioned that was one of the pillars, if you will, of your organization. And I just want to read, this is from Wikipedia, and then I'll let you, Tim, to get into more depth. But for people who've never heard of SDGs or Sustainable Development Goals or Global Goals, are a collection of 17 interlinked objectives designed to serve as a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future. I'm not going to name off all 17 of these interlinked objectives, but just to give you a sample, for instance, no poverty, zero hunger, gender equality, reduced inequalities, and peace. So very exciting stuff. Timi, if you wouldn't mind, can you give us just some more insight into how Global Shapers embraces these SDGs and the work that goes into implementing these into your organization?
Thank you for the question, Rico. So in September 2015, the member of state of the United Nations, UN for short, they met in New York, that's in the United States, to adopt the SDGs. So normally there is a meeting called the General Assembly by the United Nations, whereby you have member states of over 170 countries coming together, and these people represent like the head of state or the head of government of these countries. And also you have meetings that involves business leaders and global thought leaders who may be leaders of not-for-profit organizations who also meet, at the United Nations headquarters to debate. So in the summits of 2015, which is like the Global Summit at New York, the SDGs was presented to be like a year 2030 strategic agenda to transform our world by enacting policies to enhance prosperity and peace for the people in general. Also, to protect our planet, not only for today but also for the future. So the SDGs, it's this set of 17 goals that have been built over time from like decades of work as far back as 1992. So the first time the consideration about SDGs came up was when there was an Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, where you have 178 countries, adopting like action plans to build a global partnership to improve human lives. That's one solid point. Then the second point is to protect the environment. So you see that in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which I will itemize one by one, that you see this element of poverty, it's heart of it, and also this element about making sure people live a prosperous life is in the equation. And you see there's a lot about the environment, because these are like the chief point. So when we look at the 17 Development Goals, which is goal 1 now, that speaks to like no poverty. Then you have goal 2, which speaks about zero hunger. Then you have goal 3, which speaks about good health and well-being. Then you have goal 4, which speaks about quality education. You also have goal 5, that's gender equality. Then goal 6, which is clean water and sanitation. Then you have goal 7, which is affordable and clean energy. You have goal 8, which speaks about decent work and economic growth. You have goal 9, which speaks about industry, innovation, and infrastructure. You have goal 10, which speaks about reduced inequalities. You have goal 11, which speaks about sustainable cities and communities. You have goal 12, which speaks about responsible consumption and production. You have goal 13, which speaks about climate action. You have goal 14, which speaks about life below water. You have goal 15, which speaks about life on land. You have goal 16, which speaks about peace, justice, and strong institutions. And you have goal 17, which is the final goal that speaks about partnership for the goals. So when you look at these, you see that no poverty, quality education, and the likes, good health and well-being speaks about the people, right? Then when you look at things like, clean water and sanitation, you look at affordable and clean energy, you look at sustainable cities, life below water, climate action, that speaks about environment. But again, you see that there's a strong connection between the humans and the environment, because we as humans, we need the environment to actually live this prosperous life. And also, the environment needs us as human beings, who are custodians of the environment, to take care of it. So there's this kind of virtual marriage between human and the environment, as we would see here. And what Sustainable Development Goals does is just to try to, connect all this together to make sure that while trying as human beings to live good lives, we also don't destroy our environment, which is the reason why we are here in the first place in the process. And that answers the question about, the brief history about SDGs. Now, to look at we at the Global Shapers, how this works for us. So you will see that if you have an agreement of over 178 countries, preparing something globally for all of us, we as human beings generally are diverse. So it means that we will have different strengths, we'll have different priorities we'll be looking at. And the Global Shapers community, though it's huge, but I don't think it's as huge as 7 billion people. So we try to break it down, because the idea of the SDGs is to make sure we leave no one behind. So you go from the global goals and you try to democratize or localize these goals as it pertains to your pressing needs in your own environment. So in some climes of the world, no poverty is not something they will really reconcile or relate with, because you hardly see a lot of poverty around you, particularly in a place like Germany or in advanced European countries. But if you go to South America, you go to a lot of African countries, Southeast Asia, then you see that that may be a pressing need for them. But again, you know that due to the level of industrialization, climate action is going to be more pressing in a place like Europe and North America than and Asia than in a place like maybe so many African countries and also South American countries. So for us now in the Global Shapers community, the entire hub has this acronym called iShape. So in 2018, the Global Shapers also had this annual summit whereby they identified like 3 priority areas, which could be a form of breaking down the SDGs into like small size achievable tasks that will have meaningful impact. So what the Global Shapers community in 2018 looked at was there will be 3 priority areas, which is climate and environment, education and employment, then equity and inclusion. Then after 3 years, there was another summit because it's an annual summit, and the Global Shapers community decided to bring in 6 new impact areas. And then the team was acronymized as iShape, which is what I mentioned earlier. So I stand for inclusion, which means we have to create inclusive communities. Then S stands for skills, which means we have to reskill, for the future because the world's changing. Then H stands for health, which means that we need to improve health and well-being. Then A stands for aid, which means we need to help to deliver basic needs. And then we have P, which stands for planet, which means that we need to protect the planet. Then E stands for engagement, which means we need to strengthen our civic engagement. You see this in a way, for example, engagement has to do with partnerships, communicating with people and trying to, get the message of SDGs across by bringing people on board, Then in these 6 priority areas, you see in one way or the other, it still covers this whole idea of making sure people have a good lifestyle, that is well-being of people, and also the environment. So iShape is what we live by now. And I would say that here in Freiburg, which is the Global Shapers Freiburg Hub, we implement the SDGs by adapting the iShape in our own thinking. But we go beyond that to make sure that looking at how local community, we look at project teams that is really in line with what Freiburg needs. So Freiburg is a green city. It's not a news that it's like more or less the green capital of Germany and probably a model for a lot of other cities when we talk about green transition. And then we have the project teams of urban gardening, we have green education, and peer mentoring. So I hope I've been able to cover your questions in great details.
Yeah, that was great. That's a great summary, Tim. Yeah,
Thank you.
Since I am in Freiburg and I'm curious about these projects, I'll segue and ask the next question. So you mentioned that there are some local projects going on. It'd be great to get some clue from Vinay about these projects. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the first one that I realize is you guys worked on an urban gardening project. And you can kind of elaborate from that one to other projects as well.
Patrick, thank you. So the urban gardening or the urban agriculture is a project which we started in the same time as we founded the hub. So the project is active since 2020 and still it is going on. So this year as well, we are planning to do some activities based on the projects. I will come back to it in the later time of my talk. Basically, I start with how the idea of urban gardening came up within ourselves. For example, when we founded the hub and it was the time of the COVID, for example, because I think in June 2020 it was a peak time of COVID, so you are not allowed to go out or you're not allowed to meet friends and these things. So the idea of this promoting the growing the plants and spending some time with it and for mental health and also to see how the plant grows and producing your own food, and also of course, it gives some positive changes in the local food sharing market. For example, if you grow your own vegetable, for example, if you grow your own one single tomato, then it reduces the impact on the supply chain by this tomato, one single tomato. So that's how this idea came up to promote the self-sufficiency in the food and utilization of the space. For example, when you have a garden or when you have a balcony, let's say, so to promote this idea. And the holistic approach of this is for example, if you talk about farm to table, then when you grow in your own field and when you bring it to the table, it's so fresh like it's in few minutes you are going to eat it after harvesting. But if you see the supply chain now, for example, some fruits, for example, if you consider the most staple fruit, banana, it's come from mainly to Europe from South America. So it takes such a long time in the supply chain process. But unfortunately, we can't grow in Europe banana, so we have to depend on that. But at least some things which you can grow here, for example, tomatoes or chilies or some beans or something which you can replace with by growing yourself. So it will be so fresh and it will be the most healthiest food what you can eat on your table every day. And also, for example, for the salad, the Germany is the best place to grow a salad. So in your balcony or in a small pot, you can grow a salad. So it's a specific example for if you can grow your own food. And another major impact of this urban gardening is that we can reduce the waste of the production. For example, today, as per the recent report from the food organization, so around 30 to 40% of the food production is getting wasted because of the problem in the supply chain or the transportation failure, because there is not enough infrastructure to support this, or usually it's a perishable food. So in the process of transporting, many food get wasted. So this one we can tackle at least a bit of it by growing our own food. And another major impact is the like reducing the greenhouse gas emission. For example, the reducing the pollution in the city. If we have more green cover, definitely it will reduce the carbon which is emitted by the vehicles or something. It will absorb and it will become an active carbon absorption as a carbon sink, for example. And there is a study, for example, which is made in New York City, because they are struggling to cope up with the CO2 emission demand, these things. So they did a study and they realized that, for example, when they go from gray areas to green areas, for example, growing your own vegetables or in your making your yard as a garden, so you can save up to $1.5 billion over 20 years of time. So it was a recent study which is published in a blog from the city. There is also another potential study which is done in Adelaide in Australia, where the population density is not so high in the city. So in that case, for example, everyone has a small patch of backyard. If they utilize that part to grow their vegetable needs, so they only need 23% of that space of their yard to grow their own. All everything is covered in 23% of utilizing the space to grow the vegetables. In case of if there is a high yield, in case of medium yield, if they use the 72% of that space, so then they can produce their all vegetable needs all over the year. So it's a kind of a really positive direction in the towards self-sustainability. Another reason is for this urban gardening is to initiate, encourage people and to bring people together. For example, students like who are usually they don't have much knowledge or they don't have much expertise or they don't have enough resources to start this project. But by doing through this project, we want to encourage them to come forward and start doing this to educate them. Now I will talk about an interesting initiative within this project. Like we started with growing the seedlings within our team members or with our together with the help of our friends and giving it away for free. For example, in Germany we call it as Verschenken, like giving it away. The targets people were the students who live in the dormitories. For example, they don't have access to, let's say, to grow the plants, or it's too costly for them if they go to like the supermarkets to buy these plants. It'll be too expensive for them. So that's why we thought about let's target the students and mostly the international students because they also have a language barrier and whatever the case. So and we also came out with a nice idea of using the yogurt cups to grow the plants in the concept of circular economy. For example, like the yogurt cups, we can easily grow a seedlings in the yogurt cup. So it was also like we found it as a nice initiative to do that. And we also exchange the seeds between ourselves. And we also saved the seeds from the previous years, or we also got some seeds from the local farmers. So that will also encourage for the biodiversity or the local keep the local biodiversity intact. And on the top of that, we also did some video series, for example, information on how to start the seedlings like which kind of soil you should use and how is the process, how deep you should put the seeds in and how much water you should put, and about these things. And also uh, the second part of the video series was like about caring for seedlings, and the later at the end of about like how to care while growing the plants. For example, we did on tomato, which is the mostly grown plants and it's a easy to care plant. So that's why we did it on that. And as a number, if I want to give as an outreach of this initiative of like how many plants we gave away in the first year, in the 2021, when we started this, we gave around 100 seedlings. And we went around the city and in the prominent areas, and we put up our stands there, and people came and took the plants. And in the last year was a really highly successful year for us. We gave around 300 seedlings, including vegetables and vegetables and flowers and salad seedlings. So last year it was around 300, and this year also we are planning to do it in the beginning of June. So, and in the same time, last year after applying for a garden space from the city of Freiburg, we received 100 square meter of garden space in the outskirts of Freiburg in St. Georgen. So last year we also did some gardening there because we started I think we got the place in July. But we did some, we planted some plants and we also harvested some. It was so nice to see your own tomatoes when you harvest from the
Hmm.
plants, and when you see it, when you eat it, like you appreciate it more than when you buy from the supermarket. And this year we would like to do the similar thing. We would like to expand our reach, and also we would like to do some initiatives with either kids or school children. So this is our plan in the summer this year.
I just wanted to just ask a question, Vinay.
Yeah,
So it
sure.
sounds, I mean, clearly the benefits of doing this urban gardening are great. How do you, as an organization, carry out these initiatives? Like, how, with these seedlings that you're giving out, do you recruit additional volunteers, or is this just the members of the hub? How do you go about carrying out these particular initiatives and projects? So you also mentioned that you got
Mhm.
the space from the German government, local government. How does that happen?
Usually, for the plant giveaway project, the seedlings, we grow the seedlings within our group members, the hub members. So, but we are also looking actively for the volunteers or the helpers, because last year we also got the help from our friends, for example. Like we also gave the target to them, like everyone will grow 5 plants. We will provide you the soil and the seeds. 4 you give it to us for this project, and 1 you keep it yourself. So it was the win-win
Win-win.
situation for both of us. So it was the our initiative. And for this, yeah, and the garden space, like there was a call from the city that they are giving away for the garden space for the initiatives or as a small groups of people. Then we found it through the city website and we applied that as a hub. Then we received the space. So this is how we got it.
Yeah, and I think maybe I can also add a
Yeah,
bit
sure.
as to funding because uh, like I said earlier, we are a non-profit organization, so we also have to find ways to fund our projects, and so yeah, so we also apply to funds or competitions or incubators that are around the world. For example, last year we applied for an incubator project by the Climate Reality Fund, and we received around 1,000 US dollars as a grant to carry our project. So this is how we kind of fund the projects. However, like Vinay said, we try to use our own resources and use our skills and do kind of do things more independently and in a cost-saving way to carry out the projects. But yeah, we look at all opportunities where we can apply and to find resources, so to say.
Yeah, I love that initiative, Minsara. It's exactly what young people who have energy should be doing. If not everyone has that kind of energy, and not everyone has a green thumb. So it's great that you
Hmm.
guys are educating your fellow
Yeah.
students and also your colleagues on how you can do that, because that's always the question for those who have never tried to, grow their own food and so on. And I know that that's another project you guys are working on around green education. I don't know, would it be you, Minsara, to give us a little bit of an idea of that one?
Yes, I'd love to. So this was actually it's interesting to say this also kind of uh, was this idea of green education project was also born out of urban gardening, so to say. But however, I think this initiative was seen or was noticed by Uta Schroeder at the Karlsruhe House. I think Pat, you know her very well. And then she contacted us, and then she wanted us to collaborate with her in their Green Academy project, which is a sustainable camp for children between the age of 12 to 18, which usually takes place during the summer break. So she wanted us to conduct one of the sessions and to teach children about, urban gardening and circular economy and topics like that. Like you said, it was also new for us because we were always students. We were never the teacher. But it was a very interesting challenge. And so we also had to come up with an innovative way as well, because this was also not your typical audience, so to say. These were children. So we thought of, okay, we'll educate them by using by interactive sessions and through games. So we kind of packed in the SDGs and the Sustainable Development Goals into games, so to say, so that we could interact with the kids in a more effective way. So I think you already know about the game show Jeopardy in US, which is very famous, and there's also another game called Jungle Speed in Germany. So we kind of added a bit of the SDG knowledge into these games, and we conducted sessions with them. And in addition to the classroom sessions, so to say, we also took the children to the sustainable beekeeper who produces honey through sustainable methods. And we had a very exciting and interesting session with the bees. And it was also very interesting for the kids as well as to us as well. We learned a lot of new things. So we always try to come up with innovative ideas to share this knowledge. And so this was kind of like the beginning of the project. And then we also thought, okay, this is a great initiative. We can use our knowledge and expertise. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, we are from very diverse, different backgrounds, so we can use our knowledge to educate and share information with anyone, not just children. So through our green education project, we kind of we share the SDG goals: climate action, responsible consumption and production, life on land, and sustainable cities and communities. So our goal is to educate about all these aspects of sustainable living and informing them about pathways and activities that could lead to a sustainable life. Yeah, and mainly we collaborate with Karlsruhe House, which is an ongoing project now every year, and we hope to take part in the Green Academy project this year as well. In addition, we also conducted another workshop, which was a worm party, so to say, on the Earthworm Day, 21st of October. The event was held, we did it last year, and also at a garden in Vauban. Vauban is a part of Freiburg, where we had like a worm museum and information about earthworms and how important the earthworms are to the fertility of the soil and their role in making the earth, so to say, more fertile. So it was very interesting. We had like this a glass structure where children or anyone came by could see into the different layers of earth and where the earthworms are and what do they do, pictures and more information about them. So that was also very interesting.
It sounds like excellent events that are occurring in Freiburg. So for our local podcast listeners.
Yes, and I mean, these are the projects that are currently ongoing, but we also had one project earlier, which was the peer mentoring project. So this was, we did it in collaboration with the University of Freiburg and the master's program in environmental governance, where we tried to match, or where we did match students with alumni of the program. So when the students were done with their studies and were going into the industry or to the field, that they could have like a mentor-mentee relationship between the alumni and themselves, so as to guide their way. So we carried this project out in 2021, I believe. Then it was taken over by the big alumni themselves because they found it to be very interesting. And now that's one of our completed projects as well.
Well, very, very enlightening. I'm very impressed. I have to say that with such a, not a small, but not a large membership in the hub in Freiburg, and how much work you've been able to do. And so, thank you for sharing that information about these two initiatives as well as the peer mentoring. And Timi, thank you for really, giving us an overview of these SDGs, because I think you mentioned the two major pillars, right? Helping people and helping the environment. And what we've seen through these projects is you guys are doing both in helping both people and the environment. So for people who would love to become involved with Global Shapers, what is the best way for them to discover more information, to find if there is a local hub in their communities? Maybe I could throw that to you, Minsara. What is the best way for people to find out more information?
So the best way would be to contact us directly through our website. It's simply globalshapersfreiburg.com, and you can contact us there anytime, or just reach us out via our social medias, mostly Instagram. Anyone who is interested, who has a desire to make a change and impact the community, or if there are various issues around the world that are not being seen by us, and it could be the same in our community as well. There could be issues that we don't see, but someone else knows and want to do some kind of a change or wants to act to it and needs some kind of support, then they could also come in and join us, and we can work together on a new initiative as well. And I think also, Rico, I would also like to mention, to address the point that you mentioned before, where we are a small group, true, and we are very determined, and we are all about making a positive change. But I mean, we also receive a lot of support from different organizations, especially the Social Innovation Lab. We should mention them because they have also worked with us, and they also provide, we are also under their guidance in one of their scholarship programs, where we receive a co-working space and also guidance in other administrative stuff, as a Verein, as a non-profit organization, which is very helpful. And also Karlsruhe House, as I mentioned earlier, which has been very helpful throughout the years, and also Houses Engagement, as well as the city of Freiburg as well. It's a collaboration. It's a combined effort, so to say.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So I'm assuming if there are organizations listening in, if you want to partner, Global Shapers might be a perfect organization to partner with. I want to go ahead and bring the episode to a close. And so thank you all, Minsara, Timi, and Vinay, for sharing your insights, for sharing your wealth of information, and really just encouraging people to get involved. We'll be putting out the information in the description for both the podcast video as well as in the notes for the audio podcast. But thank you guys for coming aboard. We really enjoyed the interview with you today.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
And
thank you very much for having us. And we also enjoy talking with you, Pat and Rico. Yeah.
Yeah, one more point I would like to add on, like supporting the hub. For example, like if the people are not if they're not qualified with the age limit, so they can't join the as a hub member. But of course, they can help us as a volunteer or monetary support or whatever. So they can also join the initiatives. For example, this plant giveaway. There is always a way to, if they want to get involved. So we are really supportive with that.
thank you, Vinay. I didn't want to say it incorrectly, but thank you for bringing that up. Yes, and so we don't have to be members to get involved. So we can collaborate, and Learneezee plans to collaborate as well with Global Shapers, and this is just the beginning for us.
Yes,
so
of course, we are open for all collaborations. You just need the interest and the desire to put in the work, and we are very happy to help out with all the initiatives. Yeah.
So what it sounds like is, you think globally, but you act locally. based on the issues that are happening in your neck of the woods, as we say. But great, really great information. We'll be sharing that widely. But that brings us to the end of our show. So I want to thank everybody for your time and keep on learning easy.